Welcome back to Actionable Reads,
We're back.
where we take those books everyone keeps telling you to read,
That's right.
and we extract those insights you can actually apply to your life.
Actionable insights. That's what we do.
That's right. We do the deep dive so you can take action.
Exactly.
And today, we are tackling a modern classic, Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance
By Robert Pirsig.
by Robert Pirsig,
A classic.
specifically chapters 21 through 32.
Yeah. Things get really interesting here.
This is where the narrator's journey
Yeah,
really takes some unexpected turns.
it does. And we get to the heart of what this book is really about.
Yes, you've probably heard of this one, a cross-country motorcycle trip. That's also a deep exploration of philosophy,
Personal growth
personal growth, and the meaning of quality,
with a capital Q.
with a capital Q. But
Yeah.
what does all that high-minded stuff
Yeah.
have to do with us here in the real world?
That's the question, right?
That's what we're going to uncover today.
We are. We're going to break down those complex ideas into practical insights, exploring themes like
Yeah.
facing your inner shadows, the limitations of reason, and finding order amidst the chaos.
Well, strap in, because this is going to be a ride.
It certainly is.
All right, chapter 21 kicks off with a real gut punch.
Yeah, it does.
Chris, the narrator's son, tells him point blank, "You are not a very brave man."
Oof.
Talk about a truth bomb.
Truth bomb. It's a pivotal moment in the book. It really is.
Yeah.
And it exposes this deep tension within the narrator.
Yeah.
He wants to be accepted, to fit in, but his pursuit of truth, of understanding, often puts him at odds with societal norms.
Right, so it's like he's built up this persona to protect himself,
Yeah,
to avoid being hurt or rejected.
exactly. And Chris's words just shatter that facade, forcing the narrator to confront the ghost of Phaedrus, his former self, who represents that uncompromising search for truth.
And that's a scary prospect, right? To face
Right.
those parts of ourselves
Oh,
that
absolutely.
we've tried so hard to bury.
Yeah. But Pirsig is suggesting that true growth requires us to confront those shadows, to integrate them into our being. It's not about erasing them,
Right.
but understanding them.
So how do we do that? How do we face those uncomfortable truths about ourselves without falling apart?
Well, chapter 22 offers a glimmer of hope. The narrator experiences this shift, a sense of lightness and renewal. As they continue their journey, it's like a weight has been lifted.
Yeah, he even says it's going to get better now.
Right. And I think this shift is connected to the re-emergence of Phaedrus. By acknowledging that part of himself, by starting to integrate it, the narrator opens himself up to the possibility of healing and growth.
It's like by facing our fears, we create space for something new to emerge.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And then we get these really intriguing chapters, 23 and 24.
Oh, I love these chapters.
They're so short,
They're so short.
but so packed with symbolism. A mysterious door at the end of a corridor, and then just the simple yet powerful statement,
Yes.
the sun is up.
It's like little breaths of fresh air in the midst of all this heavy introspection.
Yes. They represent transition, a new beginning. The door symbolizes the unknown, the potential for change. And then the rising sun evokes hope, a sense of possibility. It's a reminder that even in the darkest of times, there's always the promise of a new dawn.
It's like a visual representation of that internal shift the narrator is experiencing.
Exactly. But as we know, personal growth isn't always linear. It's full of ups and downs, setbacks, and breakthroughs.
And sure enough, in chapter 25, we're back in the thick of it,
Back in it.
with another confrontation between Chris and the narrator. Chris challenges his father's courage yet again, forcing him to examine his actions and motivations.
This repeated challenge from Chris is crucial.
Yeah.
It highlights the narrator's tendency to retreat into intellectualization, to avoid true vulnerability. And it's a pattern that many of us can relate to.
Right. It's easier to analyze our problems than to actually feel them.
Right. But as Pirsig shows us, real growth requires us to lean into those uncomfortable emotions, to allow ourselves to be seen, even if it's scary.
And that's what the narrator starts to do in chapter 26. He talks about finding a solution to stuckness in a really unexpected way through a sensation of cold.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's like a jolt that wakes him up from a kind of mental slumber. This unexpected solution highlights the power of the subconscious mind, the importance of letting go of control and trusting the process.
Right.
Sometimes the answers we seek come when we least expect them. when we stop trying so hard.
Exactly. It's about surrendering to the flow of life, trusting that there's a wisdom beyond our conscious understanding.
Which can be terrifying and also incredibly liberating.
Absolutely. And that sense of liberation is what empowers the narrator to take an even bolder step in chapter 27. He decides to confront the ghost of Phaedrus head on.
And let me tell you, things get intense. This is where the book really starts to dig into the depths of the human psyche.
It's a powerful metaphor for all of us, isn't it? Mm-hmm.
We all have those shadows within us, those aspects of ourselves that we'd rather keep hidden. But until we acknowledge them, they'll continue to haunt us.
So how does the narrator approach this confrontation? Does he try to fight Phaedrus or reason with him?
He does something far more radical. He decides to embrace Phaedrus.
Wow.
To integrate him into his being. It's a risky move, but it's also the only way to truly heal.
It's like he's finally accepting all parts of himself.
Yes.
The light and the shadow.
Exactly. But this process of integration is not without its challenges. In chapter 28, just when we think things might be turning around, despair sets in.
It's a short chapter.
Yeah.
But it packs an emotional punch. Pirsig doesn't shy away from the darkness that can accompany personal growth.
Despair is a natural part of the process, you know? It's what happens when we confront our deepest fears or deepest wounds. But it's important to remember that despair is not the end of the story.
It's a stage, a phase we have to move through. Exactly. And the narrator, even in his despair, doesn't give up. He finds ways to cope, to find moments of peace and connection.
So how does he do that? How does he pull himself out of that darkness?
He turns to practical tasks, to the routines of daily life. In chapters 29 and 30, he focuses on repacking, making lists, and observing the world around him. It's a way of grounding himself, of finding order amidst the chaos of his inner world.
It's like he's creating a sense of stability through these small acts of self-care.
Exactly. And he also starts to reconnect with Chris in a more authentic way. They read magazines together, share meals, and simply enjoy each other's company. These simple acts of connection are a reminder that even in the midst of our struggles, relationships can be a source of strength and solace.
And just as he's starting to find some equilibrium, he stumbles upon this meticulously organized cycle shop. In chapter 31, the contrast between this external order and the turmoil within him is striking.
It is. The cycle shop represents a kind of idealized order, a world where everything has its place. It's a reflection of the classical understanding that Pirsig talks about, the analytical, systematic approach to the world. And for the narrator, it's both comforting and unsettling.
It's like he sees a glimpse of the kind of clarity he's seeking, but he's also aware of how far he is from achieving it.
Right. And this encounter sparks a deeper reflection on his relationship with technology, his own need for order, and the tension between the classical and romantic ways of seeing the world. It's a tension that's at the heart of the book, and it's one that we'll continue to explore as we dive deeper into the world of Phaedrus.
That's where we're headed next. So for all you listeners out there, get ready to unpack some of the most challenging and rewarding ideas in Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance.
It's gonna be fun.
We're going to dive into the heart of Phaedrus' world, explore the limits of reason, and discover what it truly means to live a life of quality. Stay tuned.
Welcome back to Actionable Reads,
where we're all about turning book knowledge into real-world action.
And we're continuing our deep dive into Robert Pirsig's philosophical road trip, Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance.
Okay, so last time we left off with the narrator grappling with these two ways of seeing the world, the classical and the romantic.
Right, and just to quickly recap for our listeners, classical understanding is about taking things apart, seeing the nuts and bolts, the underlying structure.
It's analytical, objective, like a scientist looking under a microscope.
Exactly. While romantic understanding is more about the experience, the feeling, the big picture. It's subjective, intuitive, like an artist responding to a beautiful landscape.
And as we saw in the last few chapters, the narrator is trying to figure out how these two perspectives can coexist, or if they even can.
Because sometimes they seem to be at odds with each other. And in chapter 33, Pirsig takes this idea even further, using the example of a mechanic working on a motorcycle.
Okay, so how does a motorcycle engine illustrate this idea of classical understanding?
Well, think about it. To fix an engine, you have to understand how all the parts work together. The timing, the fuel flow, the electrical system. It's all very precise, very systematic.
There's a logic to it, a set of rules you have to follow. You can't just wing it.
Exactly. And that's what classical understanding is all about. It's about breaking things down, seeing the underlying systems, the cause and effect relationships.
It's a powerful way of looking at the world. But what happens when we take it too far? What are the limitations of only seeing things through that analytical lens?
That's the question Pirsig is wrestling with. Because when we break things down too much, we can lose sight of the whole, the beauty, the mystery.
It's like, you might be able to take the engine apart and put it back together, but you forget why you love riding the motorcycle in the first place. The feeling of freedom, the wind in your hair.
Precisely. You lose that sense of awe, that connection to something larger than yourself. And that's where romantic understanding comes in. It's about embracing the experience, the feeling, the wholeness.
So it's not about choosing one over the other, but finding a balance.
Exactly. And that's the challenge the narrator is facing. He's trying to integrate these two ways of seeing to find a way to be both analytical and intuitive, both in control and open to the unexpected.
And this is so relevant to our lives today.
Oh, yeah.
Think about all the data we're bombarded with, all the ways we try to quantify and analyze every aspect of our existence.
It's easy to get lost in the numbers and the metrics and the pursuit of optimization. But we're not just machines, we're humans with emotions, intuitions, and a longing for something more than just efficiency.
We need that sense of wonder, that connection to something bigger than ourselves. And that's where this idea of quality comes in, right?
Absolutely. Remember, that's Pirsig's term.
Oh, yeah.
For this elusive, almost mystical concept that's at the heart of both the analytical and the experiential.
Okay, refresh my memory.
Yeah.
What exactly is quality? It's one of those things that's hard to pin down.
It is. It's not a thing, but a way of seeing, a way of being. It's what makes something good, beautiful, meaningful. It's the essence of what makes life worth living.
So it's not just about the motorcycle itself, but this experience of riding it.
Exactly. It's the feeling of the engine purring smoothly, the satisfaction of a well-executed repair, the joy of the open road. It's about being present in the moment, fully engaged with the world around you.
Okay, I'm starting to get it. But how do we cultivate quality in our lives? Is it something we can learn? Or is it just there?
That's the big question. And Pirsig offers some really interesting insights. One key is caring. Remember that meticulous cycle shop we talked about, how everything was in its place? That's a reflection of the mechanic's care for his craft, his attention to detail.
It's not just about doing the job, but doing it well, with intention.
Exactly, and that's something we can apply to any area of our lives, whether it's our work, our relationships, or even just how we take care of ourselves.
So it's about finding that sweet spot where passion and precision intersect.
I like that. It's about bringing that level of intentionality and care to everything we do.
And another important aspect of cultivating quality is being present in the moment. Yeah. Right.
Absolutely. When we're fully present, we're not just going through the motions, we're experiencing life in all its richness.
It's like when you're riding a motorcycle, you have to be fully engaged with the road, the machine, your surroundings. You can't be distracted or you'll crash.
That's a great analogy. And that same level of presence can be applied to anything we do, from having a conversation to simply washing the dishes.
It's about mindfulness in a way.
Exactly. It's about bringing our full attention to the task at hand, to the people around us, to the beauty of the world. And when we do that, quality naturally emerges.
I love that. So quality is this hidden treasure.
Yeah.
And the map to find it is within each of us.
And the journey to find it, that's what makes life truly meaningful. It's not about the destination, but the ride itself.
Okay, so we're starting to get a handle on this idea of quality. But where does Phaedrus fit into all of this? How does the narrator's exploration of his former self connect to this search for quality?
That's where things get really interesting. And that's what we'll explore in the next part of our deep dive. Because Phaedrus, he represents the extreme end of this pursuit of quality. He pushed the boundaries of reason, challenged the very foundations of our thinking.
And the narrator is trying to understand not just what Phaedrus found, but what it cost him.
Exactly, because the pursuit of quality, it's not always easy or safe. It can lead to brilliance, but also to heartbreak. And that's what makes this book so powerful. It doesn't shy away from the complexities of the human experience.
So for all you Actionable Reads listeners out there, get ready for part 3, where we'll delve into the heart of Phaedrus's world, explore the shadows and the light of his quest for quality, It's going to be a wild ride.
Welcome back to Actionable Reads,
where we break down those big ideas into bite-sized wisdom.
Yeah, those big philosophical nuggets
Exactly.
that you can actually use.
You can chew on.
Yeah, there you go.
And we are in the home stretch of our exploration of Zen and the art of motorcycle maintenance.
The final frontier.
The final frontier. We're getting to the really good stuff.
Oh, the summit.
We've been talking about this idea of quality, this elusive force that seems to drive everything.
Right. It's everywhere and nowhere all at once.
It's like it's the air we breathe, but we don't always notice it.
Exactly. And we've also been unpacking these two contrasting ways of understanding the world. Classical and romantic.
The head and the heart.
The yin and the yang, the mechanic and the artist.
And now the narrator's trying to figure out how those perspectives fit together, or maybe where they fall apart.
Because sometimes they do. They clash, they collide.
Because it's messy, isn't it? Life doesn't always fit into neat categories.
It certainly does not. Life is a lot more like jazz than a symphony.
There's improvisation, there's feeling.
Exactly. And that's where Phaedrus, the narrator's former self, becomes so crucial.
Right.
He embodies this intense, almost reckless pursuit of quality.
He's like the embodiment of romantic understanding taken to the extreme.
He's all in on the experience, the feeling, the quest.
And the narrator is trying to learn from Phaedrus's journey, both his triumphs and his struggles.
Right. He's trying to find that sweet spot where quality enhances life without overwhelming it.
It's a delicate balance, a tightrope walk.
Absolutely.
So what happens in these last chapters? What can we learn from Phaedrus's experience?
Well, chapter 34 opens with this stunning description of a mountain vista. It's breathtakingly beautiful, but there's also this undercurrent of unease.
It's like the beauty's almost too intense, hinting at something darker beneath the surface.
That's a great observation. It mirrors the narrator's internal state. He's getting closer to the truth about Phaedrus, but that truth is both exhilarating and terrifying.
Because Phaedrus went to some pretty dark places, didn't he, in his quest for quality?
He did, and the narrator is trying to navigate that same territory, but more cautiously, he's searching for a way to embrace quality without losing himself.
It's like he's walking a tightrope, trying to find balance between the analytical and the intuitive.
Exactly. And in chapter 35, he stumbles upon this concept called lateral thinking, which might offer a way forward.
Okay, what is lateral thinking? How does that help us understand quality?
It's about breaking free from rigid linear thought patterns. It's about making unexpected connections, seeing things from new angles.
So it's kind of like brainstorming, but on a deeper level.
Yes, it's about tapping into creativity, intuition, even a bit of controlled chaos.
And Phaedrus, he was a master of that kind of thinking, wasn't he?
Absolutely. It allowed him to see patterns that others missed, to challenge conventional wisdom, but it also made him vulnerable to instability, to losing touch with reality.
So how do we harness the power of lateral thinking without going off the rails? That's a tightrope walk in itself.
Right. Pirsig suggests it's about finding the right balance between intuition and reason. We need both.
Classical understanding keeps us grounded while lateral thinking helps us soar.
Exactly. And I think that's one of the most valuable takeaways from this book. We need both ways of seeing, both ways of thinking to navigate the complexities of life.
It's about embracing the messiness, the contradictions.
And in those final chapters, the narrator starts to understand that the pursuit of quality isn't just an intellectual exercise, it's a way of life.
It's about bringing that same level of care and attention to everything we do, from the smallest tasks to our biggest dreams.
It's about showing up, fully being present in each moment, appreciating the beauty and the mystery of it all.
It's about recognizing that quality isn't something we find out there in the world. It's something we cultivate within ourselves through our actions, our choices, our way of being.
Beautifully said. And I think that's what Pirsig wants us to walk away with, a renewed sense of wonder, a commitment to living a life that's both meaningful and fulfilling.
A life filled with quality, whatever that means for each of us.
Exactly. And that's the beauty of it. It's a journey, not a destination.
So for all you Actionable Reads listeners out there, we encourage you to pick up Zen and the art of motorcycle maintenance and experience this journey for yourself. It's a book that will challenge you, inspire you, and stay with you long after you turn the last page.
It's a good one, and until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep into those books that have the power to change your life.